What happens when power begins to speak louder than alliances? What happens when a country that helped shape the modern global order starts questioning the very rules it once defended? And what happens when a remote island in the Arctic suddenly becomes the center of a global political storm? Tonight, the global community faces a new challenge as the treaty officially expires. Tonight, we are examining statements from the White House that have stunned allies, unsettled Europe, and reopened a question many believed belonged to history. Can territory still be taken by force in the modern world? Over the past few days, senior officials in Washington have confirmed that President Donald Trump is actively considering options to bring Greenland under United States control. Those options, according to the White House, include military measures. The administration has described the potential acquisition of Greenland as a national security priority. That language alone has raised alarms across Europe. Greenland is not an unclaimed land. It is not a disputed colony. It is a semi-autonomous territory under the sovereignty of Denmark, a fellow NATO member and one of America's longest-standing allies. Yet once again, Greenland has become the focus of American strategic ambition. To understand why Greenland matters, we need to look beyond the ice. Greenland is the largest island on Earth. It sits at the crossroads of the Arctic, North America, and Europe. As Arctic ice continues to melt, new shipping routes are opening. Natural resources, including rare earth minerals, are becoming more accessible. And military positioning in the Arctic is increasingly viewed as critical for missile defense and early warning systems. The United States already maintains a military presence on the island, including the Patuxent Space Base, a key installation for space surveillance and missile detection. For decades, this presence existed through cooperation, agreements, and diplomacy. What has changed now is not geography, but tone. President Trump has repeatedly stated that the United States needs Greenland, not wants, needs. According to Trump, Greenland is essential for American security and long-term strategic dominance. This is not the first time he has raised the idea. During his earlier presidency, Trump openly suggested purchasing Greenland, a proposal that was firmly rejected by Denmark and widely dismissed at the time as political theater. But this time, the conversation has escalated beyond words. White House officials have confirmed that military options are being discussed internally, even if no final decision has been made. That confirmation alone has fundamentally changed how the world is reacting. The response from Europe was swift and unusually unified. Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, issued one of the strongest warnings ever directed at Washington by a NATO ally. She stated that any military action by the United States against Greenland would represent an attack on Danish sovereignty and could effectively spell the end of NATO. That statement was not symbolic. NATO is built on a single principle.
An attack on one member is an attack on all.
If the United States were to act against the territory of a NATO ally, the alliance would face a contradiction at its very core. Shortly after Denmark's warning, 6 major European leaders, including those from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, and Spain, released a joint declaration. Their message was clear and carefully worded. Greenland belongs to its people. Only Denmark and Greenland can decide on matters concerning their relationship. Arctic security is important, but it must be achieved collectively. This level of coordination among European powers is rare, and it reflects the seriousness of the situation. At the center of this issue lies a fundamental principle of international law sovereignty. Since the end of the Second World War, the global system has been built on the idea that borders are inviolable. Territorial changes are meant to occur through negotiation, not force. The United Nations Charter explicitly prohibits the acquisition of territory through military aggression. That principle has been challenged many times, but it remains the foundation of the modern international order. If a leading democracy openly discusses the use of force to acquire allied territory, the implications go far beyond Greenland. It creates a precedent, and precedents matter. Often overlooked in this debate are the people of Greenland themselves. Greenland is home to fewer than 60,000 people, many of them indigenous Inuit communities. Greenlandic leaders have been clear. They are open to cooperation, investment, and partnership. But they reject the idea of ownership. Greenland's government has stated that there is no imminent threat and that dialogue remains their preferred approach. At the same time, they have made it clear that Greenland is not a strategic object to be claimed. For Greenland, this is not just about geopolitics. It is about identity, autonomy, and dignity. This controversy also does not exist in isolation. It comes amid a broader shift in United States foreign and security policy. Recent national security documents emphasize American dominance in the Western Hemisphere, including Central America, South America, and the Western Arctic. Just days before the Greenland statements, the United States carried out a military operation in Venezuela. That operation resulted in the seizure of President Nicolas Maduro and a declaration that the country would be administered under Washington's authority. The move sparked international criticism and renewed debates about interventionism. Taken together, these actions suggest a return to a more aggressive interpretation of American power. For America's allies, the concern is not limited to Greenland. It is about predictability. Alliances rely on trust, stability, and the belief that power will not be turned inward against partners. When strategic interests begin to override diplomatic norms, allies start questioning long-term commitments.
European leaders are not rejecting Arctic security.
They are rejecting unilateral action, the one solutions through NATO, diplomacy, and international law. NATO has survived the Cold War, regional conflicts, and internal disagreements. But this situation is different. Never before has a leading NATO member openly discussed using force against the territory of another NATO member. If that line is crossed, NATO's credibility would face its most serious test in history. Would allies respond? Could they respond? And what would NATO represent afterward? These are questions leaders are quietly asking behind closed doors. From Washington's perspective, Greenland represents strategic leverage. From Europe's perspective, Greenland represents a line that must not be crossed. From Greenland's perspective, it represents home. This clash of perspectives explains why the issue has escalated so rapidly. Power without consent creates resistance. Security without trust creates instability. It is important to separate rhetoric from reality. No military action has taken place. No formal decision has been announced. But words matter, especially when spoken by governments. When leaders normalize the language of force, expectations shift. Markets react, diplomats prepare, militaries plan. And once momentum builds, it becomes harder to reverse. Several outcomes remain possible. Diplomatic pressure could push the issue back toward negotiation. Allies could reinforce collective security frameworks to prevent escalation. Or rhetoric could continue to harden, increasing the risk of confrontation that no side truly wants. What happens next will depend on a restraint, leadership, and the willingness to respect long-standing principles. This is not just a story about Greenland. It is a story about how power is used in the 21st century. It is about whether alliances still protect smaller nations, and it is about whether rules apply equally, even to the most powerful. History shows that moments like this shape decades to come. The discussion surrounding Greenland has exposed deep fault lines in global politics, between power and principle, between security and sovereignty, between ambition and restraint.
This report is based on publicly available information and official statements.
It is presented for analysis and understanding, not advocacy. Viewers are encouraged to verify facts independently and form their own conclusions. Thank you for listening. This is Oliver Grant Reports.